There are moments in every man's life when he feels confused by the silence of women. You see, men are often direct. When we're hungry, we eat. When we're tired, we sleep. But women are different. When desire moves through their bodies, it doesn't always show up in obvious ways. It hides in their words, their gestures, and even in their silence. And too many men, good men, are blind to it. They miss the signs. But let me tell you this, women don't just feel desire in the body, they feel it in their hearts, in their minds, in the way they see you. And if you don't recognize the signs, you'll miss the chance to connect, not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually, soul to soul. Think about it. How many times have you been around a woman thinking she was just being friendly, when in reality her body was screaming for closeness? How many times have you dismissed her little hints, only to later realize she wanted you to lead? The truth is, women don't always announce their desires. They express them in ways that only men with awareness, confidence, and emotional depth can see. And if you learn to read these signs, you will never again be the man left wondering, what if? You will be the man she trusts with her vulnerability, the man she chooses when her body and soul are restless for connection. A woman's body and mind are like an orchestra. When desire plays, every instrument changes its tone. Most men miss this because they are only looking for the obvious, a seductive glance, a direct touch, or a bold invitation. But in reality, the first sign that a woman is feeling that deep pull of desire is far more subtle. It's the shift in her energy. Imagine this: you're sitting across from her, having a simple conversation about work, school, or even the weather. On the surface, nothing dramatic has changed. She's still speaking the same words, wearing the same clothes, carrying the same expression. But if you pay attention, if you tune in, you will notice something has shifted in the air. The way she looks at you is just a little longer. The rhythm of her laughter is softer, almost musical. The space between her words feels more alive. That is energy. That is desire beginning to stir. It's not about her saying, "I want you." It's about her presence drawing you in without explanation. And here's the truth: women are emotional beings first. Desire begins for them in the invisible realm. Before it ever reaches their body, it brews in their spirit. That's why a woman's energy is the first place you will notice her arousal. A high-value man learns to read this unspoken language. He knows when she suddenly becomes more playful, when her usual sarcasm melts into warmth, when her guarded tone softens into something vulnerable. She may not even understand why she's behaving differently, because it's not calculated. It's instinct. Her body and her emotions are responding to the man in front of her. And here's where most men fail: they ignore the shift. They tell themselves, "She's just being nice," or "I'm probably imagining it." That's not leadership, that's doubt. A man who knows himself recognizes when her energy tilts toward him. He doesn't pounce. He doesn't rush. He leans into it with presence, confidence, and calm. Because when her energy shifts, she is opening a door. And if you walk through it with awareness, you don't just touch her body, you touch her soul. When a woman is drawn to you, when her desire quietly awakens, she will often express it not in words, but in the language of touch and closeness. And here's the secret: most of these touches are not grand, not dramatic. They're small, almost invisible. But to the man who is awake, they speak louder than any confession. Maybe you notice her brushing a crumb off your shirt when you could have done it yourself. Maybe she touches your arm when laughing at a joke that wasn't even that funny. Maybe she leans in closer to show you something on her phone when she could have easily held it at a distance. These are not accidents. These are subtle invitations. You see, women are masters of creating excuses for closeness. Why? Because vulnerability is risky. Saying directly, "I want you," exposes her heart to rejection. But leaning in, brushing your hand, or resting just a little too close, that gives her the thrill of intimacy while still protecting her from shame if you don't respond. It's a safe gamble. And here's where most men fail. They dismiss these little touches as nothing. They shrug them off as, "She's just friendly," or "She's like that with everyone." But high-value men understand attraction is rarely shouted, it is whispered. Think about it: when a woman chooses to sit shoulder to shoulder with you in a room full of empty seats, that is not logistics. it's instinct. When she lingers in your space, when she doesn't pull away as quickly as she should, she's speaking to you in her most ancient language, touch. The key, however, is not to overreact. The low-value man lunges, misreads, and destroys the tension. The high-value man receives the signal with calm confidence. He doesn't break the moment with jokes or nervousness. He stays present. He allows the silence, the nearness, to breathe, because proximity is a bridge. If you walk across too fast, you collapse it. But if you recognize it, honor it, and lead her across gently, you create safety. And when a woman feels safe in your presence, her desire deepens into trust. That trust is what unlocks not only her body, but her heart. One of the most overlooked signs of a woman's hidden desire is her voice. Most men don't realize how deeply emotion and biology intertwine in a woman's tone. When she feels that spark of attraction, when her body and spirit are quietly stirred, her voice begins to transform. It softens, it slows down, it becomes sweeter, almost musical. Think about it. A woman who normally speaks fast and sharp may suddenly take her time with her words when she's with you. A woman who usually keeps her tone professional or distant may begin to sound warmer, more melodic, more inviting. This isn't coincidence. This is her body's way of subconsciously communicating closeness. Desire shifts the rhythm of her speech, pulling her voice into a register that draws you in. And here's the truth. Women are emotional creatures first, physical creatures second. Their voice becomes the bridge between their inner world and your ears. When she's drawn to you, she doesn't just want you to hear her words, she wants you to feel them. That's why the sound changes. That's why her laughter lingers longer, why she says your name more often, why the pauses between her sentences seem filled with something unspoken. But here's where men go wrong. Too many ignore this shift. They get lost in the conversation's surface, what she's talking about, instead of paying attention to how she's talking. A man with awareness hears the hidden message in her tone. He recognizes the sweetness, the lowered pitch, the gentle rhythm as a sign of vulnerability and desire. What should you do when you notice this? Don't interrupt it. Don't joke it away or brush it off. Let her voice wrap around you. Mirror her softness. Lower your own tone. Slow your pace. This creates harmony, a resonance between her energy and yours. And in that harmony, she feels safe. She feels understood. She feels connected. Because ultimately, her voice is not just sound. It is an invitation to move beyond words, into presence, into intimacy. A high-value man hears her voice not just with his ears, but with his spirit. And when he does, she feels it. She feels seen. She feels desired. And in that feeling, her attraction deepens beyond the physical. When a woman's desire for you begins to stir, it rarely shows up as blunt words or open invitations. Instead, it comes disguised as curiosity. Suddenly, she wants to know more about you, not just the surface details, but the pieces of your life that connect to who you truly are. Pay attention. When a woman is simply passing time, her questions stay shallow. How was your day? What do you do? Where are you from? But when attraction begins to glow inside her, her curiosity deepens. She asks about your childhood, your passions, your struggles. She leans in when you share about your dreams, your fears, even your failures. Why? Because when she is emotionally stirred, she is no longer just interested in your answers. She's interested in you. This shift in curiosity is not random. It's instinct. Women know that desire without emotional depth feels empty. So when she is drawn to you, her hunger isn't only for your body, it is for connection. She wants to feel your world, not just touch your skin. And here's the truth most men miss when she's asking these deeper questions. She is giving you a chance to lead. She is testing if you can be vulnerable, if you can open up without losing your strength. A high-value man understands this dance. He doesn't overshare to seek validation, but he also doesn't stay guarded like a stone wall. He reveals just enough of his truth to create intimacy, while holding steady in his frame. Now, imagine the opposite. If you dismiss her curiosity with short answers, if you dodge her attempts to know you, she feels the door closing. And when a woman feels shut out, her desire cools. But when you let her in, when you allow her to explore the layers of your story, you give her something far more powerful than physical pleasure. You give her emotional safety. Because here's the secret: women don't just crave sex, they crave meaning, and curiosity is how they move closer to it. If you respond with presence, patience, and depth, you transform her interest into trust and her desire into devotion. So remember this, her questions are not just questions. They are signals. They are little doors opening to her heart. And the man who walks through them with confidence will find not just her body, but her loyalty. Not every woman will flirt openly. Not every woman will touch your arm, giggle at your jokes, or lean into your space. Some women, especially the ones who guard their vulnerability closely, speak through silence. And yet that silence can be louder than any word. This is what I call the silent invitation. Picture this. You're sitting with her, maybe in a cafe, maybe in your car, maybe just walking side by side. The conversation slows, but she doesn't pull out her phone. She doesn't rush to fill the silence. Instead, she lets it breathe. She lets it linger. Her eyes hold yours a little too long. Her lips part like she has something to say, but decides against it. Her body angles toward you even when her words are nowhere to be found. That is not emptiness. That is presence. That is her saying, without saying, I want you to lead. Men who lack awareness often panic in these moments. They fumble to fill the silence with meaningless chatter, or they mistake it for boredom. But the high-value man understands that silence is often where intimacy is born. It is in the unspoken spaces that trust and attraction deepen. A silent invitation is powerful because it's risky for her. Words can be denied, jokes can be brushed off, touches can be explained away. But silence leaves her fully exposed. When she gives you her quiet presence, she is giving you the chance to step into it, to lean closer, to create connection, to make her feel seen without her having to beg for it. Here's the secret, women rarely hand over silence unless they feel safe. So when she does, it's a sign that her guard is down and her desire is rising. The question is, will you notice? Will you hold that eye contact? Will you allow the stillness instead of rushing to kill it? Will you step into the leadership she's silently asking for? The man who does earns more than her body. He earns her trust, her surrender, her deepest attraction. Because in that silence, she is not saying nothing. She is saying everything. Every signal a woman gives, whether it's the energy shift, the playful touches, the softened voice, the curious questions, or even the silent invitation, leads to this final truth. It is all a test of your awareness. Women do not give themselves fully to men who cannot see them. Desire for a woman is not just physical, it is spiritual. And if you cannot read her subtle language, she feels unseen, unvalued, invisible. Here's the reality: women don't always make it obvious because they are not only searching for a man to satisfy desire. They are searching for a man who can hold space for their vulnerability. If she has to spell it out, it loses some of its magic. She wants to know if you're attuned enough, present enough, and confident enough to notice the things she doesn't say out loud. That's why it feels like a test, because it is. Not a cruel test, but a natural one. A test of leadership, a test of emotional intelligence, a test of whether you are the kind of man she can trust with her softness. And here's where most men fail. They stay trapped in their heads. They overanalyze, second guess, and miss the signals right in front of them. Meanwhile, the man who is grounded, calm, and aware notices everything. He notices the way her eyes linger. He notices the pause before she speaks. He notices the shift in her breathing, the way her laughter carries warmth. He doesn't overthink it. He simply feels it. Awareness is not about memorizing tricks or formulas. It's about presence. When you are truly present with a woman, you see her. And when she feels seen, her desire opens like a flower in sunlight. So remember this: every gesture, every silence, every subtle shift is her way of asking, are you the man who will notice me? If your answer is yes, if you rise to that test, not only will you win her body, but you will also win her respect, her trust, and her devotion. Because ultimately, awareness is not just about reading her. It's about proving you are man enough to carry the weight of her unspoken truth.